It's the Monday Night Results Show. Just the results, and nothing but the results. From this past weekend's race at your favorite racetracks, if you're looking for a lot of happy talk and fluff, tune into the Disney Channel. And now, the man with a mind for statistics. Unfortunately, those statistics are usually odds on the ponies in Vegas. Mitch, the Dr. Walker.
All right, welcome back. It's the Monday Night Results Show. And boy, I tell you what, we are locked and loaded for bear tonight. Great show lined up, but let's step it off like we're supposed to each and every week with our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. They may take that out of the public schools, but they'll never take it off of my radio show. All right. We have got a show lined up tonight. I am really excited about tonight's show. We do have some bad news that we're going to be talking about in the first segment. I'm going to be doing a tribute to one of racing's greats, Mr. Charles Mincie. Also, this past weekend, Ronnie the King Davis was killed in Rockingham in a drag race. He was from Georgia, and we'll be talking a little bit about him. In the same incident that took Ronnie Davis, there was a photographer who was the Drag Illustrated senior editor, Ian Toker. He was hit by debris from Davis's car, and he is in stable shape, but he was hit in the legs. He was airlifted to UNC Chapel Hill, I believe, is where they took him. And they said that they do have circulation in both legs, and they're hoping that they can do the reconstructive surgery to save both of his legs, and that he will return to a normal life soon. But keep those in your prayers. We've got results from all over the place, man. I've got results left and right. Real quick news, Bob Vandergriff, who raced up until 2014 in the NHRA Top Fuel. 2014, he turned into a car owner and fielded two Top Fuel teams for a couple of drivers, Dave Conley and Leah Pritchett, effective immediately. Bob Vandergriff has pulled the plug on Bob Vandergriff Racing. He has announced an immediate retirement, and he is stepping away from it. He said he's got a lot of things going on. A lot of it had to do with him losing his dear friend. Recently, the owner of C&J Energy Services. I know that, Josh Comstock was his name. Losing a good friend like that can really affect it. And it is what it is, but it's going to be sad to see Bob Vandergriff go. I know that he's got some things in the works. He's going to be doing some things, but not seeing the Bob Vandergriff hauler and the cars at NHRA events is a sad day. 22 years in racing, and he's walking away. He said he just has priorities that he wants to take care of, and the death of his friend, he said he just realized that there was things that were more important than racing, and that now he's going to be taking care of them. All right, we're getting ready to step out and take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the legend, Mr. Charles Mincie. I have some stuff that I'm going to read to you, and some excerpts from an article from racersreunion.com. I want to thank them for allowing me to do so. But when we come back, don't go nowhere. It's the Monday Night Results Show with your host, me, Mitch Walker. They call me the Doctor, exclusively right here on the Performance Motorsports Network.
Here's an important message from RAD and this station.
Hi, this is Bob Sheehan from Blues Traveler for RAD, recording artists against drunk driving. I like to party just as much as the next guy, maybe even more, but the one thing I won't do after I've had a few is get in the car and drive. Don't blow it. Always choose a designated driver. Remember, music lives and so should you.
Motorsports Sales Professionals. Performance Motorsports is looking to build a team of experienced media sales professionals to represent our programming to the industry's top companies, magazines, and racing series. If you have motorsports sales or marketing experience, know how to work with agencies, understand social media, and are incredibly creative when it comes to working with clients and promotions, then we want to hear from you. Top performers are richly rewarded. Your imagination is the only limit here. Call 717-749-0444. That's 717-749-0444, or email us at scorpionradiogroup@gmail.com. You want to ask for Sue.
You are a waste. A loser. Everyone hates you. Why don't you just stay in your car and keep driving? I'm serious. Drive until you run out of gas and get out of your car and walk until you find someone who doesn't think you're dumber than bricks. Could take a while, but at least all that walking might burn a couple of calories.
You may not witness bullying like this every day. Your kids do. They want to help, but they don't know how. Visit stopbullying.gov to learn safe, simple ways your child can help stop bullying. Be more than a bystander at stopbullying.gov. A message from the Ad Council.
You own a performance car and you know how to drive, but you want to learn real performance driving. Well, Bunky, get that car off the street and onto the track. Summit Point Motorsports Park, the Mid-Atlantic's premier road racing facility, located just over an hour from D.C. in nearby Summit Point, West Virginia, is the place to go. And you'll find that Friday at the Track is going to give you what you need. For less than a monthly car payment, you can attend this regularly scheduled one-day instructional event in your street car on one of Summit Point's 3 world-class road racing circuits. You'll receive classroom instruction, skid pad instruction in their cars, including front and rear skid control, and 4 20-minute in-your-car instructional sessions from a professional instructor. Have fun, go fast, and really learn how to drive. Call 304-725-8444 for class schedules and details. That's 304-725-8444. Friday at the Track at Summit Point Motorsports Park.
It's the Monday Night's Results Show, the internet radio show that gives you the results from your favorite racetracks. And that's it! If you're looking for a lot of happy talk and fluff, go watch NASCAR coverage on ESPN. Now, here's the doctor.
All right, welcome back. I got kind of distracted there during the preview, and I want to tell you a little bit about my guests for tonight. First up, here coming up in just a little bit, will be none other than Mr. Smooth himself, Delbert Haynes. I believe Delbert is starting his 34th year racing, and multi-time track champion, always a great driver, clean driver who prides himself on good-looking cars, and he's got quite a following. When we mentioned on the show before, who would you like to hear on the show? One of the names that was always in the top 3 of guests that people wanted to hear was Delbert Haynes. So driver of the number 11, we will be having Delbert come on board with us here in just a little bit, and we're going to be talking to him. And as we previewed last week, we're going to have a young lady out of Florida. Miss Alli Owens is going to be joining us. She is going to be stepping up and trying her hand at the trucks when the NASCAR trucks roll into Eldora this year. So we're going to be talking about her and some of the battles and the tribulations of getting a Cup team together or a NASCAR team together, and we'll be talking a little bit about her. But this past week, the racing community lost a true legend, Charlie Mincie. Charlie was born in the Bellwood community, the roughest neighborhood in Atlanta, on November 19th, 1931. Charlie delivered cars for his dad, who owned a paint and body shop. And at 10 years old, he was learning to drive by delivering cars. And he worked his way up through the ranks. And at age 14, he decided, after he had got his license, that the money he was making off his dad just wasn't enough. It was time to get a real job. And he had a 1939 Ford. He would venture up to Dawsonville, Georgia, pay $2.50 a gallon for moonshine, make the trip back to Atlanta, or he would sell it for $3.50, making $1 profit. Now, if you do the math, if he hauled 200 gallons 7 nights a week, that's about $1,400 a week. And when you're 14 and it's 1945, you're a contender. In 1946, Charlie was making so much money from bootlegging that him and 3 of his friends flew up to New York City on an airplane. He didn't have any business going up there. He just had so much bootlegging money, he was afraid something might happen to it, and he needed to spend it. They spent a week up there touring Broadway, Times Square, the whole works. They bought clothes and all kinds of stuff and shipped it back to Atlanta, then flew back home. Moonshining was a good way of making money. Charlie never hauled in mason jars, or jugs as commonly thought. He always hauled his in tin cans. Basically, they were shaped like gas cans, but you could buy them in bulk. Not only were they less bulky than jars, they were tin. He didn't have to worry about the glass breaking. He made quite a few trips back and forth between Dawsonville and Atlanta. By the time he was 19 years old, his dad and his soon-to-be bride were scared that he was going to get caught. So it was Bad Eye Shirley, Raymond Parks' brother-in-law and manager of several of Raymond Parks' liquor stores, that wanted to help Charlie quit racing on the streets and put him on the track. Bad Eye, who was named that for having poked his eye out as a child, had a jalopy car that was built by Billy Hester and owner of the Cherokee Garage where Gober Soseby ran out of. They ran at the newly opened Peach Bowl Speedway. He gave Charlie a shot at it. Charlie won the first 2 races he entered. The third time, the track bumped him up to the sportsman division. It was mostly the same cars, but with more experienced drivers and bigger engines. The first race in that class, Charlie earned another win over Jack Smith. Needless to say, the future NASCAR star didn't take it so well that a newcomer, especially a kid, beat him on his own terms. But throughout the years, Charlie worked his way up, racing for the owner of Peach Bowl, Roy Shoemaker. He bought a 34 Ford Coupe for Charlie to race, and in 24 starts, Charlie's famous number 6 was flagged the winner 22 times. The other 2 times he came in second and third. Charlie was a great man. In the early 60s, he was always willing to help. In the early 60s, Charlie caught on with the skeeter craze that was going on. Some say the trend started around Jacksonville in 1960. But wherever it was created, it was a popular trend. A skeeter was basically an open-wheel modified that was made up of, early to mid-30s coach cars. The car was then shortened and narrowed to a custom frame and a hot engine. Popular for that time was the 327 Chevrolets, the 289 Fords, and if you were brave enough, some even used the Chevy 409s or the Ford 427s. You put that big a motor in a small car, and that separates the men from the boys. The skeeters lasted until around 68 in Georgia anyway. For Charlie, he wanted to retire in 64. He said he was honestly just burnt out. But in the late 60s, racers began to get rid of their 30-something-year-old cars in exchange for much newer cars. The popular cars in the 60s were both the Nova and the 55 Chevrolets. Others were run like Dodge Darts, Ford Fairlanes, Falcons, Chevy Corvairs. When Charlie first ran a Nova, it was a winner. There was even one time in 68, Charlie traded cars for one race. Buck Simmons climbed into Charlie's old 55 Chevrolet, and Mincie climbed into the 64 Chevelle that Buck would normally drive. After 10 races of racing Buck's 41, owned by Speedy Evans, Charlie won 8 of them, with Buck second in each one of those. Simmons won the other 2, with Mincie finishing second. There was a trend. Speedy offered the car to Charlie, but he had already agreed to drive for the Day Chevrolet team out of Ackworth. As time went on, the last ride of Charlie's career was in 1980, when a friend from Tennessee put together a Camaro. It was the best car Charlie could ever ask for. But Charlie just wasn't as enthused about racing as he once was. He would usually skip qualifying in the heat race and show up at the last minute. In 1983, another friend offered Charlie a brand new race car with rack and pinion steering, which Charlie wasn't used to. The best he could do was second, but he was so worn out. He was a worn-out driver. After a colorful career of moonshining, racing, and stunt driving for several movies, he decided to retire for good. He went back to work for Day Chevrolet as a full-time paint and body man. In 2004, Charlie was among the 8 members that year that were inducted into the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame, which he still supports. Charlie was a great man. Spent a lot of time sharing history with the younger generation, signing autographs, and just spending time letting people know what it was like racing back in the day. He loved racing, and I know that up there in heaven, they got one hell of a dirt track team up there. Charlie Mincie, you're going to be missed. Prayers for your family and friends and all those that knew you. You may be gone, but you're not forgotten. All right. There was a young man this past weekend who went through some really tough times qualifying and racing. And his name was Ronnie the King Davis, 5-time IHRA world champion and the reigning PDRA champion in top sportsman class. He was injured Saturday night in a drag race at Rockingham, and he succumbed to his injuries on Sunday in the crash that his 1963 Corvette during qualifying for the 3rd annual Spring Nationals. Davis was a resident of Swanee, Georgia, and just completed a final qualifying run in the 4.130 at 178 miles an hour when his car turned left and shot violently back across the track in front of Camaro of Mark Malcutt. Davis was treated by medical personnel at the track before being transported to Moore County Regional Hospital and later to UNC Medical Center in Chapel Hill. In addition to a storied racing career that spanned more than a quarter of a century, Davis was the owner of Davis Golf Carts in Swanee. His business was the official pit vehicle provider for the PDRA, and many of his racing rivals were also golf cart customers. Early in his career, Davis was almost unbeatable. At Atlanta Speed Shop Drag Race, where he dominated competition called the King of the Hill, that gave him the name Ronnie the King, long before he ever won a national title or a world championship. Davis is survived by his daughters Michelle Seeger and Bridget Medina, as well as his longtime companion Mickey Deering. Ian Toker, the photographer, was airlifted out, also in serious condition. He is expected to make a full recovery. Please keep the Davis family in your prayers as they go through the loss of a racing legend. All right, we're up against the commercial break. Please keep the families of Charlie Mincie and Mr. Davis in your prayers. We're going to step out for a quick commercial break, and when we come back, it's going to be none other than the man himself, Mr. Smooth, Mr. Delbert Haynes, is going to be joining us right here on the Monday Night Results Show. So sit tight, don't go nowhere. It's the Monday Night Results Show with your host, me, Mitch Walker. They call me the Doctor, exclusively right here on the Performance Motorsports Network.
Motorsports sales professionals. Performance Motorsports is looking to build a team of experienced media sales professionals to represent our programming to the industry's top companies, magazines, and racing series. If you have motorsports sales or marketing experience, know how to work with agencies, understand social media, and are incredibly creative when it comes to working with clients and promotions, then we want to hear from you. Top performers are richly rewarded. Your imagination is the only limit here. Call 717-749-0444. That's 717-749-0444, or email us at scorpionradiogroup@gmail.com. You want to ask for Sue.
Every 30 minutes, another innocent person is killed due to a drunk driver.
My best friend.
My brother.
My poor grandchild.
My sister.
My father.
My husband.
My mom. My mommy.
Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I've built my life around you.
Stop these tragedies before they happen. Don't drink and drive.
Do you love the sound of high-revving motors and the smell of burning rubber? Do you want to get your car sideways right at the ragged edge of control? If you've always wanted to try drifting or learn to improve your drifting skills, Summit Point Motorsports Park, the Mid-Atlantic's premier motorsports facility, has the expert instructors and the specialized track to teach you how to drift and the skills necessary to drift competitively. From skid pad to open sessions, Summit Point Motorsports Park has the safe and open environment that allows drifters of all skill levels, new to intermediate, to get sideways and smoking. With a focus on safety and the skill set necessary to drift competitively, Summit Point Motorsports Park's Drift Nirvana is just the thing for you. Call for your reservation today, 304-725-8444. Or for more information, go online, summitpoint-raceway.com, or you can email them at office@bsrinc.com. Drift Nirvana, getting you sideways the right way.
If you own a gun, you have a full-time responsibility. When you aren't using it, be sure it can't get into the hands of curious children, troubled teenagers, a thief, or anyone else who might misuse it. Your family, friends, and neighbors are all counting on you. Remember, always, lock it up. For more information on firearm storage safety, visit ncpc.org. This message brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and the Ad Council.
Covering the entire field from the back markers to the race winner every weekend. It's the Monday Night Results Show, the Internet's only racing results show. Now back to the Doctor.
All right, welcome back. Joining me right now, none other than the man himself, Mr. Smooth, Mr. Delbert Haynes. Delbert, how are we doing tonight, brother?
Hey, I'm doing great, Doc. Let me tell you, I'm extremely happy for this privilege to be on your program tonight, and I count it a huge honor to do anything you request for me to help you out with, brother.
Well, man, I tell you what, you know, I have asked 3 or 4 times for people to give me ideas on here on the show. And one of the names that is always right there at the top of the list is Delbert Haynes. And I'm just tickled that you had time to sit in with us for a little bit.
Well, I am too. I've always enjoyed hanging out with you. You're a hoot, and everybody knows that. And we're planning on having fun tonight like we have at the racetrack every week.
That's right. That's right. Now, I can't let this go any longer. A dear friend of mine and yours both, Miss Margaret Parks, wanted me to ask you how the name Smooth came about.
Well, I tell it a couple of ways. It's according to Margaret's around or not. It was back in the mid-'80s. I was racing up at Boyd's, and I cut all my hair off, and I was up there, and I got in a crash, and I was walking through the pits, and she seen I didn't have no hair, and she said she didn't recognize me without my hat on, so she started calling me Smooth. Now, the second version I tell is she came up to me one night, and she said, you don't try hard enough when you're out on the track. And I said, what do you mean? I won the race. And she said, yeah, but you just don't drive like the rest of them. You're not sideways. You're real smooth. You need to drive harder. And I thought, well, I won the race. And so whichever version you want to think of, I always prided myself in trying to stay out of trouble on the racetrack and keep my car straight. I learned at a young age if I had the tires straight, I could push it. But if I turned the tires, I couldn't push it. So I always tried to keep my tires as straight as I could when I'm on the racetrack racing.
Well, you know, Delbert, I know that this is what, your 34th year racing?
33rd.
33rd.
I started in August of '83, and I won my first race in March of '84.
Well, now, Delbert, when you first started, who was it that really inspired you to start racing?
Well, I had several. I was a kid. I grew up down the street from Dennis Griffin's garage, and I always watched him, you know, his activity over there at that garage and them race cars. They were always inspiring to me. And I worked with I guess you could say one of my heroes, Doug Kilgore, and I really admired him. And when I started racing, he was the man. Of course, there was I made a list one time. I got 40 on it of really famous people that I've got to race with, and Doug was right up there with them. He inspired me to stay out of trouble and be clean. I tried to pattern my driving style after Doug's, but I'd have to say old Dennis Griffin there, he was a big inspiration to me.
Well, I know Dennis is a great guy, and I loved watching him wheel one himself. And it was always like an optical illusion, you know, with Dennis. You watch him in the car, and boy, it looked like his hands just all over that wheel, and he just going at it, and that car come off a corner just as straight as an arrow and hammer down.
Yes, my first season racing, Dennis and what was his name? It slipped my mind now. He drove the one car. Winford Morris, yeah. Winford and him, they ran super late models. Of course, them guys put on a show every Saturday night at North Georgia Speedway, and they was the big show at the time, and I counted a privilege to say I got to race against both of those guys.
Well, you know, one of the things, just kind of shifting gears here, one of the things that I have come to cherish, back when different promoters had the racetrack before I came back this year, I always walked around the infield with a microphone and doing my victory lane interviews and this and that. And one of the things that I always got a kick out of was you and Shannon Bearden always pitted close together. And then usually a couple of spots down was Gary McPherson. And any time that it came down to where we were doing the national anthem, if I needed somebody to do the prayer, I could turn and look down towards turn one, down through there, and it was always such a blessing because I seen Gary McPherson standing there like a pitcher ready to come in the game. Look down a little bit further, and there's Shannon Bearden standing ready to go. And then just another car spot over, there was Delbert Haynes standing there ready to go. You guys were always there ready to help me with that, and I count that as one of the blessings and one of the fond memories that I have of North Georgia, of watching you and Gary and Shannon all standing there just ready to run, share your faith in the Lord, and share it with people and be open about it. And that's one of the things I really enjoyed.
Well, you mentioned two awesome drivers. I guess probably some 30 championships between Gary and Shannon Bearden. I always like to park around those guys and watch how they carried themselves and presented themselves. And of course, it was always an honor to say the prayer at North Georgia Speedway. As much as you've helped me in the racing community, I think we all support you in anything we can do. I know Gary McPherson is an amazing pastor, preacher, minister, friend, race car driver. The list goes on and on. Engine builder, and Shannon Bearden's right up there with him. Shannon actually got me my Checkers sponsorship back in 1995. The biggest sponsorship, in the little area at the time. It was huge, and the Checkers wanted the whole car, and Shannon couldn't do that. He done had some other obligations, and he turned them on to me, or turned me on to them, and both of them's been a tremendous asset to my racing. Shannon has worked on my cars, as you have, and really helped me. We'd park by each other, and it was this. I'd look around, and Lisa, Shannon's wife, would be over there tightening my intake bolts and checking, making sure my battery was tight. She was looking on my car like she did her kids or something.
Well, Delbert, there's a racing bond, I think, in dirt track racing that you don't find in a lot of other forms of racing. It's a kinship, it's a camaraderie, and it's almost like family. There's you and I have known each other well over 20 years, and I'll never forget. I walked in I was looking for a church to go to, and you have always been a great inspiration to me. And I called you and I asked you. I said, Delbert, where's a good place I can go to church? And you said, you need to go over there and see your buddy Gary McPherson. And so I took and went over there, and we were sitting there in church, and these two people kept turning around looking at me. And after services, this man walked up, he looked at me, and he says, you might not know me, but my name's Ferris. And I said, yeah. He said, you know my son, Delbert. I went, oh my God, this is Delbert's dad. I hugged his neck right there. It was just, your parents have been a true blessing to me, and me and your mom swapping recipes back and forth, and them telling me stories about you when you was little. And I won't tell none of those. Don't worry, Delbert. There was so much that you and I share together. I just get a kick out of listening to you at the racetrack and watching how much fun you have.
Man, I just love living large, and thank you for mentioning my parents. I tell you, they think you hung the moon, and they have a ton of confidence in your kids too. They think them kids. Well, we know there was raised right, but my parents they done their best to raise me right, and they're continuing to do that. My dad's 83 years old. My mom's 74, and they're both coming off of a health problem, but they're on the ground running, and continue to remember them in your prayers. And hey, I tell you, another one of our great buddies that we need to remember today. It's his birthday, 76 years old, and I think Gene Stinson, he deserves a shout out from us tonight for being 76 years old and still so active in our community. And I believe we see his name on more race cars than any.
Well, we were talking about that just the other day, because I was sitting here going through some old pictures, and Austin, my son, Booty, he says, Daddy, who's Gene? And I said, what do you mean, who's Gene? He said, well, look, on that car, and on that car, and on that car, and on that car, and on that car. He said, his name's on every one of them cars. Does he sponsor all them people? And so I had to tell him the story, that Gene has give more to racing than any 10 people I know put together. And I'm going to have to get on to him, because last time I asked him, we were talking about birthdays. He said that he quit having them, and that he was 29, and he was just going to stay 29.
Well, now, that very well could be 29. That's Gary Mack's favorite number, too, but I believe Gino's as old as we are anyway.
Yeah, and Snooks D4 had a little something to do with that 29, too, didn't he?
Yeah, I sure did. He sure did. Let me tell you a story real fast on Doug Kilgore. We used to sit around. We would tell our little things on racing, and we'd ask Doug, and he said, all my life all I wanted to do was race. And he said, when I was 12 years old, I'd go to Snooks and sweep the floor and hang out with him. And on Saturday nights, I'd wait till my mom and dad went to bed. I'd get on my bicycle and ride to North Georgia Speedway and sneak in under the fence and peek so nobody'd see me, so I could watch Snooks race. And Snooks D4 was a big inspiration on Doug Kilgore, and Doug's been a big inspiration on so many of us, including his famous son. And, I believe Colby's going to do some great things racing this year, too. We've got, now that North Georgia's brought them super late models back, I think we're going to see a lot of talent shine before that we haven't seen.
I do, too. And, I know a lot of people have kind of give me grief because I got a lot of listeners in Texas. I've got a lot of listeners in the Northeast, a ton of listeners on the West Coast. And they always give me grief about, hey, Doc, we know that you work at North Georgia Speedway, but, there are other racetracks. But, I look back, I've been to over 300 racetracks in my lifetime. And I look at some of the racetracks that I've been to, and some of them, it's like you go to a fight and a race broke out. And North Georgia has always been kind of home to me. And back in the early years when me and Chris Zimmerman come romping and stomping through over there, battling with Milton Brown and Randall Smith and doing what we done, no matter how bad it was, at the end of the night, we all shook hands with each other, patted each other on the back, and told stories about how fast them race cars go.
Well, that's my home track, and I'm proud of it. Back in '89, that was my best season ever. I won opening race at Boyd's, North Georgia, and Cleveland. And I went on to win the championship at North Georgia Speedway because I realized I couldn't race at all three tracks every week. But that was early in my career, and when I won a race at North Georgia Speedway, I just felt like I'd conquered the miracle mile, even though it's a third mile. But it was just the camaraderie. The people would come up and congratulate you. You could win it. And I'm not knocking those tracks. This was back then. But I'd win a race, and nobody come congratulate me. And, it was like, hey, I'm going to go where my buddies are. North Georgia Speedway is where I went.
Well, just so you know, if you talk to your mom before I do, she just posted that she couldn't get the show to play and that she's very disappointed. You tell your mom that I will take care of her. I will get her a copy of the show.
Hey, that sounds great. She's a big Doc fan, man, and I know that would make her day. Her and my dad, they stay indoors a lot nowadays, and hey, that would be just great. You only get one mama a lifetime, and I was blessed with the most precious one. Me and her still buddies, and we always will be. And I mean, when you're little, I've got two boys myself, and when one of them get hurt, they run. They wanted their mama. And the rest of the time, I was in charge of entertainment and fixing peanut butter sandwiches. But if they was hurt, they wanted their mama. And I'm the same way. I could tell my mom anything. And my dad, I was a little more reserved.
Well, your dad he is such a hoot. I love sitting and listening to him and listening to him play the guitar and just spending time with your parents. I mean, it's clear to see where your bubbling personality came from because your parents are just great people.
Well, thank you for saying that. Whenever I go over there, we sit and we laugh and have the biggest time. We talk about days gone by and days in the future. And, we always agree that this is the worst we'll ever have it. After this, we have eternity to spend with the Lord, and I'm so looking forward to that. The Lord has really opened doors and blessed me. I've just blessed beyond measure. I don't deserve it, but I sure do appreciate it. And it's, nobody said it would be easy. There's anything that's exciting is not easy. I mean, it's easier to sit on the porch than it is to go fishing, but which is more exciting? You got to get out there and dig in worms and get out there and get your hook wet.
That's right. That's right. Well, Delbert, I'm going to tell a little story on me and you both. And this goes back more years than I care to remember. And I'm going to tell my side of it. We're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, I'm going to get you to tell your side of it. There was a night at North Georgia Speedway. I was sitting up there, and I watched the number 11 car get punted into the inside wall and wrinkled up the car pretty good and busted some things loose. I walked down there, and I looked, and I said, what are you going to do with that? You looked at me, and you said, I don't know. and I took a Sharpie out of my pocket. I wrote my phone number on your hood, and I said, well, if you want to get it fixed, call me. And sure enough, Monday you called me and you brought it down there and we fixed it. But Delbert, hold that thought right there. We're going to step out and take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about that a little bit more. It's the Monday Night Results Show with your host, me, Mitch Walker, and my special guest, Delbert Haynes, right here exclusively on the Performance Motorsports Network.
Parents, your son or daughter has had their license for a while now, but you want to make sure they're prepared for any situation they may face on the road. High school driver's ed doesn't teach them to drive defensively. They need to be prepared for any highway emergency. For less than a month's insurance, and a whole lot less, BSR instructors at Summit Point Motorsports Park in nearby Summit Point, West Virginia, will teach your son or daughter how to respond instantly and positively to unexpected situations on the road. BSR's specialized accident avoidance training teaches swerve to avoid maneuvers at highway speed, ocular driving, which focuses driving attention on ways to avoid accidents, vehicle dynamics and feedback, skid control and skid recovery, threshold braking on straights and progressive braking on curves, and off-road recovery techniques. This is stuff driver's ed simply doesn't teach. So call BSR today, 304-725-8444. Give your kid the skill set needed to drive safely and responsibly on the highway. That's 304-725-8444.
You hear that? That's the sound of America's only sports car. That's right, it's a Corvette. But not just any Corvette. It's your Corvette. It's that who cares if there's traffic part of your day. And this can be you when you come to Cooper Corvettes. With 60 years of Corvettes to choose from, there's always a Corvette in your budget. And they'll service any Corvette you bring in. Cooper Corvettes on Route 1 just north of Quantico and Triangle. Call, click, or visit CooperCorvettes.com.
We're growing like crazy and need account reps who know their way around agencies, the internet, and social media. Got connections? Or do you know how to get to the decision makers? Are you fearless? We need you. Internet radio, or as we call it, wireless mobile radio, is rapidly becoming the place to be with almost limitless income potential. So contact us to get involved with the fastest growing professionally produced group of internet radio stations in the world. Your imagination is the only limit here. Call 717-749-0444. That's 717-749-0444. Or you can email us at scorpionradiogroup@gmail.com. You want to ask for Sue.
Hi, this is John Ondrasik of Five for Fighting, here for RAD, the entertainment industry's voice for road safety. You know, style is a personal thing, and your lifestyle is your business. But if you take it on the road, it becomes everybody's business. So please, plan ahead, designate before you celebrate. Friends, don't let friends drive drunk.
A public service announcement brought to you by RAD, the National Association of Broadcasters, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to the Monday Night Results Show. Back-to-back results, and that's it. You want half-naked girls, singing, and sound effects? Go watch American Idol. Now, here's the doctor.
All right, welcome back. We were talking right before the break about how Delbert and I actually got together and started doing things together. Delbert, do you remember that night?
Yes, I do. I tell you what, when I take the green, I focus on the win, but sometimes it don't turn out the way I hoped, and that's how I met you. I tore the race car up. Best I remember, we had to load it backwards, and you came down, was looking at, surveying the damage, and you pulled my hood up, and you wrote on the back side of it, and you wrote, hey, if you need some help, give me a call. And I thought, I was pretty upset. My car's messed up. And I got home, and I was trying to wash it and figure out what to do. And I hate to say I'm not much of a fabricator, but this old boy here with the big mustache seemed like he was willing to help me. And I thought, I'm going to call him and see if he meant what he said. And the way I remember it, you backed up in front of my garage, and you had this truck, and it had cutting torches and welders, and you had pipe, and you had everything that you needed, and you didn't waste a minute. When you got out, you was putting gloves on, and you had sawzalls out and cutting torches, and you had my car tore apart, and the parts you was measuring and cutting and put them back on there. And I was amazed at how quick and professional your work was, because I thought it was the end for my race car. But the part that really stands out the most, and you know, to continue racing, you have to do it faster, cheaper, better than the next guy. You have to concentrate on how you can get there and keep this little team rolling. And money's a big part of that. And when we got done working and I got my wallet out to pay, you said, "No, I don't make my money off the racers." And you pushed my hand, put my wallet back. And I thought, now that guy barely knows me and worked like this on my car, and I've been a Dr. Flavio fan ever since. And that's not the only time that you've helped me. You've cut and ground on my cars for years, and I want you to know that I'm extremely happy to be part of your life and your family and your show. And I sure appreciate everything you've done for me and my family.
Well, Delbert, you know, there's lots of people out there who I have reached out to over the years, and I have helped them in one way or another. And I remember back years and years and years ago when I was racing, it seemed like every time I took my car somewhere to get something done, or took a motor part somewhere to get something done, it seemed like every time I did, they was wanting pictures of big presidents, you know, Grant,
yeah.
all them big guys. And I remembered that. And it's just always kind of been a thing with me, racers helping racers. And it's like, I don't make, like I said, I don't make my money off of race cars. I make my money off making doors go up and down, open and close. And if I can help a racer out, you know, I mean, what better way to do it than to find somebody who appreciates it and spend a little time with them and talk about them, a little fellowship, and get a race car fixed all at the same time.
Well, there's a lot of people out there that look up to that help that you can give them, and there's not a whole lot of them out there. And I have to say that Team Fat Boys Express, Jeff Jones and Fatback, and Jeff's dad Edgar Jones, them guys they have helped me, and they've bought parts and put on my car. They've worked on them. They've inspired me. They've the continuous improvement that they made in my racing effort, it made me more driven to do good for them. And people like you, Doc, and Fatback and Jeff and them guys, they're priceless. Gene Stinson, we've talked about several of them. Leon Brindle, some of those guys that they really, I mean, they encourage us. They want us to race. And Jeff Jones, the last race I ran, I won it. And he told me, he said, "I don't know who was the most excited, me or you." He said, "My heart, I thought it was going to quit beating." And him and Team Fat Boys Express had weighed my car out and adjusted carburetors, timing, and they really went over my car great, and it showed when I got to the track. And to have friends like you and them guys in my life, it's made my 33 years of racing such a success. At my level, in my mind, I couldn't have had any more fun. I don't want to be anybody else but Delbert Haynes, and the experience that I've got to have through this racing, and it's people like you, Doc, that's really pushed it to last these 33 years.
Well, you mentioned Jeff Jones. Jeff has been on my show a couple of times, and we have promoted some of the stuff that he does with Push-Ups for Charity and the boot campaign with Joey. And, I remember back one year, long ago, Jeff Smith and Big Dave Johnson swapped motors at the racetrack one night. And we worked on that car. There must have been 40 people swapping motors that night, pulling one out of Dave's car and putting it in Jeff's car, just so Jeff could go out, start the race, and get the points for that night. And they were racing against each other for points. And Big Dave Johnson, he backed his into the wall hard and in Jeff's oil. And we pulled the motor out and swapped and never did get it started. But it's things like that really make the racing brotherhood what it is, and the willingness to help each other. And you've always been there for everybody I've ever known. And Jeff has always been there. And So when Jeff calls me and he says, "Hey, Doc, I really need to get some people out here for my push-ups thing," I said, "Well, man, just be here on Monday night and we'll make it happen. We'll spread the word."
You know, it's great you do that because, you know, from, I guess, back in the 80s, it was a lot in the 80s and the 90s. I used to watch them guys that take carburetors off each other's cars. I've seen them take transmissions out of each other's tow rigs. I've seen them take batteries and loan each other helmets and tires and to get over there and put on a show for the fans. And you know, there's a lot of the fans, they're there every week, and we come, and I feel like I feel like an actor or something. I'm going to put on a show. I want to do the best I can for my sponsors and for these fans. And there's, you know, so many of them don't realize how much time goes into us getting out there for this 15 minutes of fame.
And, you know, watching you guys do the autograph sessions, you know, we are bringing those back to North Georgia again this year. We're going to do them old school like we used to do them up on the grass. And watching you guys see the drivers, you know, I always thought when we come up with that idea that putting them up there on the grass, that would be good for the kids and it would be good for the fans. But, you know, after watching you guys, man, I think the drivers had more fun with the autograph session than the kids did.
I know I did. It's encouraging. It makes you, again, feel like an actor, like you're, I mean, I can't imagine what must go through Jimmy Johnson or Dale Jr. or Danica Patrick's mind when they get to the races and they're racing for millions, and here's these thousands of fans cheering them on with their jackets on and their hats and their shirts. But I tell you what, whenever I go to North Georgia and I see 11 window sticker in the back of a truck, or somebody with a hat on with an 11, or somebody saying, "Hey, could I get your picture?" I tell you what, it's a slice of heaven, Doc, I'll tell you.
Oh, I know it is. And, you know, it's been fun for me because, you know, I always took pictures during the autograph sessions, and I don't think I've ever taken as many pictures as I did of you and kids. One kid in each arm, and two sitting beside you on the fender of the car. I mean, I bet you I took 40 pictures down there that one day of you and all them kids and everybody. It's like they walk away going, "I like that car. That 11 car is going to win tonight. Delbert Haynes is a winner."
I think the way I act, kids think we're about the same age or something, Doc. When they say they can relate to that guy.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, we're all a kid at heart, and I think that's one of the things that makes it so much fun. We all have fun, and I think that your work with the kids, both at the racetrack and through your church and the things you do, I think that's one of the things that makes racing attractive. And, you know, I've asked a lot of drivers who have come on my show who work real close with their father and their mom in some cases. I ask them, I say, you know, do you feel that racing makes the bond between you and your parent that much stronger? And every one of them, it's like, oh my God, yes. It makes us where we're best friends. Instead of him being just my dad, he's also my best friend. And, you know, you look at people like Grady Stokes and Natasha, you know, I mean, the bond that those two share at the racetrack every Saturday night, you know, watching each other and helping each other. I remember the night Natasha won, and she thought that her dad had throwed the race so that she would win, and his clutch was gone. And he told her, he said, "Well, go over there and get in that car and drive it back to the pits if you think I throwed the race." And she went over there and she got in it, and she said, "It won't move." He said, "Well, yeah, that's why I pulled off." And to watch them, you know, go back and forth and to see how much that meant to each of them, you know, to see that and to get, you know, for years, Delbert, I was in the stands and I was in the pits and I was working on a car and I didn't get to see all of that. And now that I've stepped over to the other side of the fence, working for the track and announcing and doing what I do, to be able to see that and to share in that, that's what makes it great. You know, we done the Doctors Grand Tour at the last race we had, and that young man, Brandon Jones, he won the Doctors Tour, and I took him around and introduced him to everybody and let him see what it was like to sit up there topside with me. And, you know, he just absolutely loved that. And I think that's one of the things that we're going to start doing a little bit more of, is getting the fans more involved and letting them see what it's like, both from a driver's standpoint and from the track standpoint, of what it takes to put on a race every Saturday night.
Well, I'm not sure how old Brandon is. I know he's a kid at heart, and I was excited to see him win that and get to be a part of seeing all that and talking about the kids. You know, that's our future. Those children are. You got three precious ones, and I tell you, you know, I grew up with Brian Burke and his girls, and I'm blessed to get to perform the wedding ceremony this month for her and Tim Thornton. And next month, I got Fatback's daughter, Andrea. I'm going to perform her ceremony. These are kids that I remember when they were just, I'm talking 5 years old. And, you know, this is what racing has done to me away from the track. It's allowed me to be parts of people's lives, you know, in a wedding. And, you know, you was a part of Brandon's life. That will never be forgotten. And that night that Natasha beat her dad, that was insane. That was an awesome night. I can't remember seeing a kid any more tickled than Natasha was. You know, and sometimes we tend to maybe not pay as much gratitude to some of the guys in the lower classes like I'm in. But you know, like we've said, those mini stock drivers, they're out there. They're as serious as Gary McPherson is.
Oh yeah, you're so right. Well, Delbert, we're up against the commercial break, man. We're gonna have to jump out of here, but I know that your car is not quite done yet. How long before you get ready?
I'm planning on being there the 23rd. Hopefully I'm going to finish it up this week, and Jeff and Fatback's going to take it and take some lead off of it. Chips let us lighten them up and put bigger spoilers, and I'm looking for the thing to be hot. I've won the last 2 times I've ran it, and hoping I pull off a win that first night. If so, I'm going to try to compete in the 5-point nights for sure in a row in the modified hobby class.
Well, I tell you what, it'd be nothing would tickle me more than get to call the race from topside and call you home coming off of turn 4.
Well, that's my fantasy, brother. That's my fantasy. I hope it comes true, too.
Me too. Delbert, thanks so much, buddy, for joining me tonight. And anytime you get ready, you just holler and we'll have you back on. We'll sit and talk racing some more. How about that?
It sounds good to me, and whenever I see you, we're going to sit and talk it then, too. And, again, God bless you. Thank you for everything you do for us in the racing community, and this has been a slice of heaven. Thanks again for having me on tonight, brother.
Hey, anytime, Delbert. Love you like a brother, man. You come back anytime. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to jump out of here in just a second, but we're going to get young Alli Owens on here in just a second. She's going to be coming on after the break. Alli, I know you're listening. Sorry, me and Delbert got long-winded there, but we will get you on. We will get you in here in just a second. But I want to remind everybody some of the upcoming events that are going around in this area. We are going to have Cleveland is going to be racing this coming weekend with a full racing program. The Rome Rumble with the Ultimate Super Late Model, $4,000 to win, will be coming up the 24th of April. The Ernest Young Memorial, which was postponed from last week due to weather, it will be this coming weekend at North Georgia Speedway with a candy drop for the kids. We're going to sling candy all over the front straight, and we're going to turn them all loose and let them go pick up candy. And there might be another little surprise or two in there as well. I-75 has a full night of racing coming up the 16th, and the 22nd of April, the USCS sprint cars roll into I-75 Speedway. Huntsville Speedway, which we have gladly stuck into our rotation of tracks that we're going to be covering, they will be having a full racing program coming up the 16th this weekend as well. So no matter where you're at, there's a racetrack close to you. You need to grab a couple of kids and take them out to the races and expose the younger generation to this wonderful thing that we call motorsports and auto racing. So don't go nowhere. Everybody sit tight. Get you something cold to drink, because when we come back, we're going to be talking with a young lady about going truck racing at Eldora. And we're going to find out all the details of what she's got going on and who's in place and what they're doing. And we'll find it all out. So don't go nowhere. It's the Monday Night Results Show with your host, me, Mitch Walker, exclusively right here on the Performance Motorsports Network.
How to be a great dad in 15 seconds. Bike ride, go fish, walk in the park, phone call, milkshake, play catch, picnic, fly a kite, tell jokes, laugh, talk, read a story, tell a story, bumper car, swing set, bowling, pillow fight, cut loose, stay tight. Whew. Because the smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Media sales professionals with agency experience. If you're frustrated with your current position, unrealistic quotas, and inept management, if you're a sales machine and you simply will not take no as an acceptable reply, if you're looking for a rapidly growing company with unlimited sales potential for commissions in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, if you're searching for a high-tech, forward-looking, laid-back, but extremely professional organization who appreciate your skills and dedication, we have your next opportunity. Scorpion Radio Group is building a sales team of self-starters who are motivated. Your imagination is the only limit here. Call 717-749-0444 or email us at scorpionradiogroup@gmail.com. That's 717-749-0444 and ask for Sue.
You hear that? That's the sound of America's only sports car. That's right, it's a Corvette. But not just any Corvette. It's your Corvette. It's that who cares if there's traffic part of your day. And this can be you when you come to Cooper Corvettes. With 60 years of Corvettes to choose from, there's always a Corvette in your budget. And they'll service any Corvette you bring in. Cooper Corvettes on Route 1 just north of Quantico and Triangle. Call, click, or visit CooperCorvettes.com.
How to deal with someone who says that's so gay. Outsmart them.
This party is like so gay. Totally.
Excuse me, but did you ladies know the word gay used to mean happy or excited? Then it became a word used to describe gay people. Then somehow it came to mean dumb or stupid, which is how you just used it, which is not very nice.
Ew, that guy is on the football team and super smart, and he totally hates us now. Totally.
When you say that's so gay, do you realize what you say? Knock it off. Learn more at thinkbeforeyouspeak.com.
Racing is all about winning. But hey, the second place guy has family too, getting you all the results from your favorite racetracks. Now back to the Monday Night Results Show with the Doctor.
All right, and welcome back. And jumping right on in there because I did get a little long-winded with my buddy Delbert. I want to welcome to the show Miss Alli Owens. Alli, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, and how about yourself?
Man, I'm finding a frog hair split 3 ways and sanded.
Sounds like something you would say.
Yeah, it's a Georgia thing. You know how we get. Now, let's jump into this. Tell me a little bit about how you got started in racing.
Oh, man, good Lord. Well, it actually started on 2 wheels and not 4. I raced BMX bikes when I was 7 and kind of really took off with that and went to compete and actually was invited to go represent the United States over in Italy and sold that and went racing in quarter midgets, and that lasted about a season until I got introduced to the dirt tracks at Volusia and built my first tour stock for the dirt when I was 13, and the rest is kind of history. Moved up to the late models on asphalt and been to ARCA and then dabbled a little bit in the truck stuff and found my way back to the dirt tracks.
Well, now I know that you know, racing is a one of those sports that once it gets in you, it's a disease for which there is no cure. And you seem like you've been bitten by this bug pretty hard, and you're working towards a goal of stepping up to a truck series and trying to run Eldora, aren't you?
Yeah, I actually when you talk about a disease, and then I know people that face addiction every day, and racing I think is probably the toughest one to kick. I've tried to walk away from this sport I don't even know how many times, and you just can't. I'm sure you know that. So, but it really all kind of started when I was 15 in high school, and I told my teachers that when all the kids are sitting there filling out college applications, I was working on building a resume for racing, and that was my plan. My poor mother. I told her, I'm like, look, I'm not going to school on, there is no plan B for me. It's all or nothing. And found my own sponsorship when I was 17 years old with the IBW, and I think that's probably a lot of the things that people don't know about me is that I had to pretty much do this on my own and really figure out the marketing side and the sales part of it and the business part of it. And I remember being 14 years old changing my axles on my pure stock every time I bent one or something like that, and in the same breath trying to find sponsorship for tires. So it all really started back then, and I just kept my head down and kept digging and found myself moving to North Carolina right after I graduated high school, and I went up there by myself and lived on a chicken farm and did what I had to do and went racing in the NASCAR Wheeling Series and just kept plugging away and just really learned, being down here in Florida and running local tracks. I mean, I would say we're sheltered when it comes to the realities of the big leagues, and, I went in there with, but trusting everybody on a handshake and learned real quick that it doesn't work like that up there. And, so my sights have always been set on NASCAR, and I made it to the ARCA Series and just learned so much so quick. And, I attempted to run the truck race at Daytona in 2011 and really just got burnt out on the industry itself at that level and stepped away. And we started off with this as far as the addiction part goes. I walked away and became a mom of 2 little girls that are listening, so hi, Braylon and Addison, and thought that I could do the whole mom thing and walk away from racing, and sure enough, them 2 darn little girls, the tutus and ballerina heels, they're playing with race cars and working on this quarter midget we have sitting in the garage, and just, made that itch come back and really want to get back on the dirt track. And when you mix NASCAR and the dirt track, you find Eldora.
Well, now, I know that there have been many before you that have fought the brave fight of trying to climb the ladder in NASCAR. What do you find has been one of the biggest obstacles that you have faced in your battles that you have went through?
I know there's been a lot of women that have come into this sport, and I think I learned it when I raced at Volusia. It was the night I led every lap in the heat and feature and won my first race out there when I found out real quick that I didn't have any friends. There was a bucket apparently going around of, who was going to take me out. And just like guys always talking about, she doesn't belong out here in this man, which is fine. I'd rather face adversity, and, I really truly believe that how I was, presented as at that level, being so young, it kind of set the stage for me moving forward, that I never wanted to be branded as a female race car driver. I wanted my stats to be just like anybody else. And I know that line is so worn out. And I believe that there's some women out there that truly believe that, and then I think it's just scripted that that's what they're supposed to say, but I truly believe it. I mean, if I'm not on the racetrack, I'm, at that point, I'm out playing in the mud hole or working on, 4x4 mud trucks at that point in my life. And, you couldn't even get me out of Wranglers and boots at that point. And, so I was really brought up grassroots 100%, very laid back, very backwoods. And when you take a female race car driver that wants to be at the level of professionalism, I had to learn a lot about myself. And in turn, at that point, I think the biggest struggle for any of us that are true grassroots racers is we love to race. I mean, you throw some, bikes out on the road at grown men, and they're like, I'm going to beat you, whatever. Everything I did was a race. And just a love of competition and being out there and just, knowing that race car you put on that racetrack, you put blood, sweat, and tears, and, Lord help it, your power bills are paid before that race car has a brand new, motor in it or something like that. And I think some people in the sport never understand that struggle. They always have it handed to them. I mean, I remember being at the quarter midget track, and people showing up in toter homes at the quarter midget track. Like, how is your kid supposed to learn anything about working hard for it when you show up with a $250,000 rig at a quarter midget track and you roll out two quarter midgets?
Yep.
And then you go up to the late models, and there you have this 12, 13-year-old kid that, has $50,000 race car sitting there and couldn't even tell you how many probably spark plugs go in it. Like, it's just different, and it was really hard for me to sit there in the driver's meeting at any given ARCA race knowing that half the people in that room could not tell you a single thing about how to put that car together. And the more and more I got to that level, the more and more that industry pulled me away from my roots of being a true driver, like a true racer. And that's probably the biggest struggle. Getting money is easy for me. And if I really want to do it, I can make it happen. It was battling myself of staying true to who I was and being what the industry wanted me to be. And I think if anybody, at the local level had the opportunity to go to the level that I was and seen what I saw, they would more than happy pack their bags and leave North Carolina or wherever they were, leave the big stage and come straight back to the local tracks. And it took me 6 years to figure that out.
Well, you mentioned a woman racer, being branded as a woman racer. Years ago, back in the mid 80s, I had the honor of knowing a young lady. Her name was Kara Hendricks, and she was a midget driver. And I had the opportunity to race against her a few times, and she was working her way up the open wheel ladder. And on the West Coast, your big thing is midgets and sprints, and your wingless wonders, your wingless warriors, whatever you want to call them. And she was working her way up, and I was standing next to her in a driver's meeting one night, and we were standing there talking about, what's it like from your side of the fence being a woman and having to compete with all the men. And she turned around and she looked me straight in the eye. She said, once I pull my helmet on, she said, you look into my eyes. She said, if I don't wear makeup, you can't tell that I'm a woman. She said, I'm not a woman. I am a race car driver, and you will treat me as such. And, it was kind of like, yes, ma'am. And here was this girl. She was 17, 18, I think, when this happened. And she had just a stellar career going. She was starting to get the recognition that she needed. And her racing career was cut short, along with her life, by a drunk driver. And she was killed by a drunk driver in the late 80s. But I will never, ever forget that, of standing there and talking to her. She said, when I pull my helmet on, she said, nobody knows that I'm a woman. She said, I'm just a race car driver. And I have met a lot of women who happen to drive race cars over the years, and each and every one of them that I have met have said the same thing. Don't treat me like a woman. Don't drive me easy. Drive me like a race car driver. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people in this sport overlook. They think that it's a man's sport. Well, I have never heard such a bigger crock of crap in all my life. A racer is a racer. It don't matter whether you're male or female, whether you're a puppy or a kitten. If you race, and if you have that passion burning inside of you, then people should race you just like you race them. And that's hard, clean, and fast.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? It's funny that you say that, because when I first got into the ARCA level and was making the money that I was making and racing, and, I was very blessed to have the sponsors that I had, and I traveled, across the United States doing all kinds of sponsor events. And one of the things I always wanted to do was blaze that trail the right way and give that money back of the winnings and helping women in the sport come up through it. And, I really rode that train as far as that women, deserve to be here and that we can do it too. And I believe that. But I think at the same point, there's this new wave of female race car drivers. And I don't know, I'm probably going to catch, crap for kind of going this direction. But there are drivers out there that now are doing it the female way, where they're a female race car driver, but they're just a wheel holder, but they're riding the wave of being that female race car driver. And what I mean by that is when I was at that level and it came time for Danica to come over to NASCAR, I was so much of the brand of, like, families and kids. I mean, I was national spokesperson for, I could give you a whole long laundry list that had to do with children. And then I represented 800,000 electricians. I mean, these are blue-collar union workers. I was very straight on what my plan was. And I will never forget the day Danica finally announced that she would be coming over to NASCAR. That same day, my team owner, and y'all can do the math of what year it was and who I ran for without me saying any names. My team owner called a PR rep. The next day, I had scheduled a makeover in New York City and a makeup artist to push the brand of his makeup artist, these designer people, and I had to leave Pocono. I was at the racetrack in Pocono working on my race car. Had to leave the garage, drive to New York City to get a makeover, which I don't wear heels to begin with, but they wanted me to wear heels in my fire suit, and they did an interview about, how I felt about being a woman and empowering women, and I'm like, empowering women? I'm in a freaking fire suit with dangly earrings and heels. At that point, I'm like, all right, here comes the big bucks and the endorsements, I was 19, 20 years old. I was like, heck yeah, bring it in. I'll take the money. Look at it now. I really want to go back and slap myself and say, what the hell are you doing wearing heels and a fire suit and thinking that you're empowering women race car drivers? What you're doing is empowering the brand of sex appeal and all this other crap that you don't stand for. Now you've created this image of you that you're going to try to compete with Danica on this whole sex appeal image that NASCAR needed, NASCAR wanted, and all this other stuff, and totally lost track of, Alli, you're backwards, you're grassroots, you're from Florida, running on like these local, like, what are you doing? And there's so many girls now that have talent. Some of them don't, some of them do, that are just so absorbed. I look on Facebook at these local drivers, half of them are in, like, dresses and helmets, and then I did the same thing, but I'm looking at it like, what are they branding? Like, go grab a wrench, work on the car, understand what percentage, rear percentage, front percentage, weights, caster, camber, shocks, take apart the shocks, put it together. At that point, if you got your game on your race car, by all means, girl, go doll it up and go, whatever you got to do to get the money. But the whole women movement has been changed, and it was right at that brink, and I remember it right at that brink when Danica came, and she's working it. She's there and I'm not, so I can't say that she's not doing what she needs to do, but that's when it changed for women coming up in the sport.
I agree with you 100%. Tell you what, we're up against a commercial break. Hang out with me, Alli. Don't go nowhere. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about your grassroots and how you feel about grassroots drivers and some of the people that you race with on a local level and them moving up. Some of them too quick, some of them shouldn't move up. Everybody has a goal. Everybody has a dream. And we're going to talk about that when we come back. So don't go nowhere. It's the Monday Night Results Show with your host, me, Mitch Walker, and my special guest, Miss Alli Owens, right here exclusively on the Performance Motorsports Network.
You own a performance car and you know how to drive, but you want to learn real performance driving. Well, Bunky, get that car off the street and onto the track. Summit Point Motorsports Park, the Mid-Atlantic's premier road racing facility, located just over an hour from D.C. in nearby Summit Point, West Virginia, is the place to go. And you'll find that Friday at the track is going to give you what you need. For less than a monthly car payment, you can attend this regularly scheduled one-day instructional event in your street car on one of Summit Point's 3 world-class road racing circuits. You'll receive classroom instruction, skid pad instruction in their cars, including front and rear skid control, and 4 20-minute in-your-car instructional sessions from a professional instructor. Have fun, go fast, and really learn how to drive. Call 304-725-8444 for class schedules and details. That's 304-725-8444. Friday at the track at Summit Point Motorsports Park.
Every 30 minutes, another innocent person is killed due to a drunk driver.
My best friend.
My brother.
My poor grandchild.
My sister.
My father.
My husband.
My mom. My mommy.
Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I've built my life around you.
Stop these tragedies before they happen. Don't drink and drive.
The Performance Motorsports Network is a compilation of shows about motorsports. From technical to controversial to just fun, everything you like about racing and gearhead stuff is right here on one internet channel. The Performance Motorsports Network. Tell your friends about it.
Hi, I'm Reed Sorensen. Racing has been a part of me and my family for as long as I can remember. I had to make tough choices early on to get to the top. It took hard work and dedication. But it's those tough choices that help me prepare for challenges I would face as a cup driver. Make the right choices today and be ready for the challenges tomorrow. This message is brought to you by the U.S. Air Force.
It's the Monday Night Results Show, the internet radio show that gives you the results from your favorite racetracks. And that's it. If you're looking for a lot of happy talk and fluff, go watch NASCAR coverage on Fox TV. Now, here's the doctor.
All right, welcome back. Now, with us on the show, Alli Owens, who is making a stand, not so much as we were just talking as a woman race car driver, but as a racer, pure, straight from the heart, passionate racer. And there's a lot of racers out there across the country racing every single Saturday night. Now, some of these people who are out there racing, they have one goal, and that's to go to the racetrack on Saturday night, race, and then go home, drink a beer, and sit around on Sunday and talk about what they could have, should have, would have done. There are a few who have the talent and the skills to actually take it to the next level. And to find out what it takes to get it to the next level, you have to take a chance. And I think that's one of the things that appeals to me about Alli and her passion is she has taken that step to take it to the next level. Now, Alli, when you look at this and you say to yourself, you know, I want to race. I want to race. I don't care if I'm racing bar stools or Craftsman trucks. But in order to make the stand that I think you're trying to make from a grassroots racer point of view, you have to use a little bit of the woman racer type thing to get the notice that you need, don't you?
I always tell people, I'm like, hey, the fact that I'm a female and I can wheel a race car is the tool to get me to the stage to say what I need to say. And I have always felt that there's been a greater purpose than me just being able to drive a race car. Every time I've felt very passionate about something, I've always used racing to be able to get that message out. And this all kind of came back. There was a guy that I raced with. We were the same age, running pure stocks, and he had this huge crush on me and all this other stuff, and he's probably going to be really embarrassed that I'm telling you. But years later, 12 years later, he messaged me on Facebook, and he said, hey, what about getting back into dirt tracks at Volusia and coming back to your roots. And I sat there and looked at that message, and I'm like, DJ Nobles. I'm like, I know that name. And anyway, we got talking, and the more we talked, he convinced me to get off my high horse of I hate racing, which never lasts more than a few years. And he convinced me to go back out to Volusia. And then we started hanging out and went over to his house, and there was this beautiful hobby stock sitting there, and I'm like, oh boy, I can see it now. I was like, I got to get back out at the racetrack. I got to get back in a race car. And the more and more that I hung out with him, and being at the racetrack and being around everybody, and then I kind of stepped back. I sit on the trailer and just kind of like sit back, and the first couple times I'm out there, I see like Donnie Ashford, who I used to run with, and David Clegg, who runs, the super late models out there, and Kent Corbin, and all these people that were so much a part of my childhood from a distance standpoint of view. And man, these people are still happy. They are still excited 12 years later, just as I remember them on the first time I showed up at a dirt track. And then still getting it, still digging, still out there chasing that dream of, being a champion out at, their local track and doing what they do. They love racing. And I'm like, man, I loved racing that much. Like, where did it go? Where did that passion for racing go? And it went into an industry that totally just ate me alive. And so then I started to get back out more, went to Putnam, went to Ocala, and all these places. And then I stopped, and I went back to New Smyrna, our local asphalt track out here, and the atmosphere was different. And I'm like, well, what changed? And I started looking around, and all these big haulers, and so much more political, and so much more money, and then I went back out to Volusia, and I'm like, man, it felt good. I was excited to be at the racetrack again. And DJ's now my fiance, so I've been obviously around the dirt track world for a little bit longer than I was anticipating at first, and really just feel like there's a lot of good talent, not just at Volusia, not just in Florida, but all over the country that, that don't get recognition, that maybe they don't really need it, because, hey, if they're still happy doing what they're doing, then who's to say that everybody's dream has to be NASCAR? That was my dream, and that's what I wanted to do. But, I mean, people have all kinds of shapes and sizes of their dreams and what they want to accomplish, and I feel like, maybe they don't need the mainstream notification or, mainstream audience of, feeling like they're accomplished. But my message that I wanted to really enforce and still use the voice that I feel like I have in the sport is to people need to support their local tracks, whether it's asphalt or dirt or drag racing or figure eight crasherama stuff, whatever you're into, wherever you are, that these are these people's dreams. And tracks are, closing down and financially struggling. And once these tracks close down, these people's dreams are going to close down with them because they don't have the resources or the experience like, somebody like myself has and knows how to get to the next level and knows the alternative routes to do things. And I don't want to see that happen because I know how bad I was crushed when I went and tested for a Cup team. Again, don't really need to go into detail with that, but tested for a Cup team, and there were 6 Cup drivers out there, and I was third fastest. And went back to the shop and had my seats getting in these nationwide cars. My first race was supposed to be Homestead. I'm talking big money Cup team, one of the top 4. And then as soon as, the deals were coming to the table and negotiations were being made, they stopped and asked me, so what does your family do? Are they the ones with this IBW, or how'd you get? I'm like, no, my family owns a janitorial cleaning company in Daytona Beach, Florida. Oh. Well, tell me about your people. I'm like, what do you mean what people are you referring to? The people that, have helped you get to this point. Tell me a little bit more about them. Did they invest? Or I'm like, no. I was like, I went out and found sponsorship on my own. This $4 million that you see sitting behind me right now is what I did. is that important? I'm like, what's the deal? Like, why are we talking about this right now? Like, why aren't we proceeding, moving forward? And last words were, you just need to, maybe your people, don't belong here. And I swear to you, that is a true story. You can ask anybody that's close to me. A true story from one of the top World Cup teams. Without saying it, basically told me I was too grassroots and too backwoods and too redneck to be up in that sport. That I just need to pack my stuff and go home. And that's pretty much what I did. I was crushed. I was crushed because at that point, everybody at the local level who always sits there on the couch drinking beer saying, that's just money, not talent. They're 100% right. And I lived it. I lived that conversation being told to me. So I came back here to Florida. And I don't want people at the local level to have that type of reality, regardless if it's at a local level or not. So my goal and my mission is to raise that money from a grassroots point of view. If it comes to where I need to go and reach in the pocket for some of the big name sponsors that I still have connections with, I will. I really don't want to go that route. I want my Eldora truck basically to support your local dirt track with however many local dirt tracks around the country that wants to come on board and say that, you know what, we deserve to be at this level too, and we just choose not to. And, I have a GoFundMe page too, because I've had a lot of really good success with the fan funding. And kind of came up in conversation over the last couple of days of, well, what happens to that money if you don't go racing? We're going to go racing regardless. I'm going to make it happen. But just to show that I am not just blowing smoke and using this as a publicity stunt and, whatever I got to do to get there, I decided, I've talked to DJ about it and over the last 24 hours, and Saturday night we're going to go to Volusia, and I'm going to donate money out of my GoFundMe account to add to the purse of every division that's going to race Saturday night at Volusia. I haven't decided how much because I don't know how much I have yet raised, but I'm going to take that out of my funding to go racing and give it to the people at the local level to say that I'm, this is for real, guys. Like, we have one shot to get on the NASCAR stage and say, you know what, glad you're here watching this race at Eldora, but you need to go home, and next Saturday night you need to put your butt in the bleachers at the local dirt track and support your local heroes, because those guys deserve just as much credit and just as much appreciation as anybody that's strapped into those cars on any given weekend in NASCAR.
Well, I couldn't agree more, and I think by you doing that, you have put your money where your mouth is, or you put your mouth where your money is, however you want to word it. But I think by you standing up and making the stand and showing people, hey, grassroots racing can produce winners, and it can produce winners at all levels. Now, you talked about the rejection that you received from a cup team. There is a local guy around here who done pretty much the same thing you done. And he tried his hand at going to some of the big teams and trying to get a ride and working his butt off, and nothing happened. And he ran into obstacles everywhere he turned. They said, no, you're pretty much, you're just too damn country. And your grassroots little organization will never accomplish or will never do anything. But the funny thing is when you open the NASCAR record book and you look at the fastest lap ever turned in NASCAR in qualifying, it was by a little red-headed kid with curly hair from the hills of North Georgia, a little town called Dawsonville, Georgia, a young man named Bill Elliott. And Bill Elliott got the same rejection that you did. I sat in the trailer over here at North Georgia Speedway a couple of years ago and talked to him while he was putting Chase in a late model and giving Chase some seat time. And he said, he said, people talk garbage about me putting Chase in the best equipment money can buy. He said, yeah, I am. He said, I admit it. I can afford it. I'm doing it. He said, but I'm not doing it just to move him up the ladder. He said, you notice how many people come with us today? He said, there's 3, me, Chase, and 1 crew member. He said, you notice who does the most work? Chase does. He said, because that's the way I was raised. He said, I was raised that me, Dan, and Ernie all put our blood, sweat, and tears into our cars. And one day, miraculously, Harry Melling walked up and said, hey, I like what you're doing. Let me help you a little bit. And that's what started the ball rolling with Bill Elliott, was his perseverance and his passion for the sport and him wanting to race and just getting noticed by Harry Melling. It moved him up that next notch. Now, is Bill Elliott the exception to the rule? He may be. But, you know, there's a lot of drivers in NASCAR right now that if you take away their funding, they, number one, like you said, they wouldn't know a shock from a camber gauge if you had a sign painted on them. Some of these guys they couldn't change the tire on the car, much less change the stagger on the car. And it's a sad thing that money has taken over a sport that so many people love so much, and that's racing. You know, money is what has taken over and corrupted NASCAR to the level that I've called Bill France, Brainless Brian France, Bubble Boy. I've ripped him 3 or 4 times on my show. And the thing is, it's not because of money that the sport has soured so much. It's because of people's greed for the money. Now, if the money was all going into the race car, yeah, I could see it. But it's not. It's lining the pockets of all these guys that they're getting these $15 and $16 million sponsorships. Yeah, it may cost them a bunch of money to field the team, but do you notice all of them are driving brand new cars? All of them are living in big fancy houses. It's not about how far I can go up the ladder with talent. It's how far I can go up the ladder by making these big paychecks. That's what has destroyed the sport.
Yep. I remember sitting, and I don't even care at this point, I was sitting in Mike Wallace's house. And, of course, 3 stories, elevator, all the good stuff. And I was wanting to run Rocking. I think it was Rockingham. It was one of the races that I didn't have funding for. And I, sure enough, went to the bank, drained my entire checking account of all the money that I had made that year in racing. And it paid for 1 race to go run in ARCA. You would think that I just stabbed my best friend in the back from the reaction that I got. And I was told that was the dumbest thing that I could have ever done, and that I would never be in NASCAR because I don't know how to spend my money or something along those lines. Basically, he was saying, you're dumb for going to go spend your money on racing instead of keeping your money and, whatever.
Yeah, the thing is, they want you to spend somebody else's money.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I care so much more about racing. Like, I was just mind blown by the amount of money these people make and the resources they have to give a little back. Like, find something that you believe in to help somebody else out. And there's a lot of drivers. Tony Stewart, obviously, he's doing it. Casey Kane's putting people there are, but that's how I did it. I mean, every penny that I made went right back into my race cars, which is probably why I fell so hard when racing ended and had to move back home and regroup my entire life. But at least I knew that my truck wasn't paid for, but my bills were paid, and I lived off of, the ramen noodles and pizza rolls. But you know what? I made good money running ARCA, but I put all of it right back into the race car. So I knew if I didn't make it, that I did everything in my power to know that I gave 110%. And that's probably the wrong way to do it in all reality, but that's how bad I wanted it. And that's how bad I want to go
And
out
you
there
done
one
it.
last
You done
time.
it your way.
Yeah.
Well, Alli,
Well,
I tell you
probably
what,
not
we're
right
up
all
against
the
the
time.
commercial. Yes, yeah. Well, we're up against a commercial break. I'm gonna have to let you go, but I tell you what, promise me this: that you will keep me posted, and that anytime you have anything breaking, you will holler at me, and we will get you back on. And we want to follow you all the way to Eldora. How about that?
Well, I appreciate it, and I do want to say thank you to everybody that's donated to help me get there. I know that there's a lot more people out there that I have to win over, and I'm fine to do that, but I just want everybody to know that I'm more passionate about making sure that I can use my voice to put on platforms that local dirt tracks, local tracks in general, whatever you're doing, live your dreams to the fullest and never give up on that, because, the sky's the limit with what you want to do. And I appreciate you having me on here. I appreciate you supporting what I'm doing. And I hope to make a lot of people proud and have that one last hurrah and go out there and kick butt at Eldora. And I'll be sure to keep up to date with you and anybody that's listening, making sure that they're up to date too, because the little guy will win this one for sure.
I tell you what, thank you so much, Alli. Alli Owens, everybody, she's fighting the good fight, standing up and making a stand and showing that the little guy can get it done one more time. And we're going to follow her all the way to Eldora, and we're going to keep rocking and rolling. All right, we're going to jump out of here. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we've got some news, we've got some results, so don't go nowhere. It's the Monday Night Results Show with your host, me, Mitch Walker. They call me the doctor, exclusively right here on the Performance Motorsports Network.
Okay, so Sarah, I'm dropping you off at Emily's?
Yep.
And Josh, you're going to?
Soccer, Dad. Soccer practice.
Right. Oh, by the way, I just wanted to let you know when I pick you both up, I'll be wearing my short shorts.
What? No!
Yep. And my dorky dad hat, and I'm gonna do my dad dance for all your friends. They'll love it!
Seriously? Why?
Because I like my short shorts. Of course, I could be talked out of it if you guys would just buckle up your seatbelts without giving me a hard time.
It's important to get your kids to buckle up for safety, no matter what it takes. And sometimes, all it takes is your parental powers of persuasion.
Okay, we're buckling up.
See, all buckled.
Good choice. I'll just have to do my dad dance at dinner time. What?
No!
Do what you have to make sure your kids are wearing their seatbelts, even on short drives. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. Visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup for more information.
Parents, your son or daughter has had their license for a while now, but you want to make sure they're prepared for any situation they may face on the road. High school driver's ed doesn't teach them to drive defensively. They need to be prepared for any highway emergency. For less than a month's insurance, and a whole lot less, BSR instructors at Summit Point Motorsports Park in nearby Summit Point, West Virginia, will teach your son or daughter how to respond instantly and positively to unexpected situations on the road. BSR's specialized accident avoidance training teaches swerve to avoid maneuvers at highway speed, ocular driving, which focuses driving attention on ways to avoid accidents, vehicle dynamics and feedback, skid control and skid recovery, threshold braking on straights and progressive braking on curves, and off-road recovery techniques. This is stuff driver's ed simply doesn't teach. So call BSR today, 304-725-8444. Give your kid the skill set needed to drive safely and responsibly on the highway. That's 304-725-8444.
This is a test to find out if you know it all when it comes to children. Name one of the leading killers of U.S. children age 1 to 13. What's the best way to protect children in a car crash? At what age and size should a child start using a booster seat?
Don't assume you know it all when it comes to car seats for your child. Go to safercar.gov/the-right-seat and know for sure. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Results? We got your results right here. It's the Monday Night Results Show with the doctor, exclusively on the PerformanceMotorsportsNetwork.com.
All right, welcome back. And again, I want to thank Alli Owens for joining us. And we are going to be following her on her journey as she takes the little guy to Eldora Speedway in the NASCAR Craftsman or the Camping World Truck Series. All right, we have a veterans result this week. We asked for them last week, and lo and behold, we got some. This goes out to, this is, and I have to believe, I haven't checked my list, but I'm pretty sure this is the first officer that we have had on the show, Ensign Thomas Benton, who is from Adamsville, Alabama. He is stationed in Norfolk, Virginia, and he wanted to hear the results from his home track, Sayers Speedway in Adamsville, Alabama. So, Ensign Benton, this results is for you. In the Buzz feature, it was Matthew Robbins taking the win over Drake Davis. Floyd Brown was third. Casey Rogers was fourth. Wesley Shuffler was fifth. Jonathan Vincent was sixth. Dennis Lane was seventh. Jonathan Eustace was eighth. Brandon Hawley was ninth. And Stephen Pate rounded out the 10-car field. In the mini modifieds, it was Jimmy Rowe out of Gardendale, Alabama, taking the win over Devin Stanley. Michael Roberts was third. Skip Garner was fourth. Jimmy Wise was fifth. Adam Gunter was sixth. Seventh was Joey Garner. Derek Moore was eighth. Jeremy Williams was ninth. Jacob Hill was 10th. And Roy Humer was 11th. In the street feature, out of Birmingham, Alabama, it was Donnie Rottenberry taking the win over Drew Pierce. Joel Falls was third. Tyler Adams was fourth. Corey Wood was fifth. Robert Vines was sixth. Dwayne Braswell was seventh. David Tier was eighth. Noah Samples was ninth. William Samuels was 10th. Alice Helms was 11th. And Eric Garner rounded out the 12-car field. In the Renegades, it was Philip Waters taking the win over Eddie Penger. William Eccles was third. Carl Jenkins was fourth. David Joyner was fifth. Jeremy Guy was sixth. Charles Richardson was seventh. Charles Bills was eighth. And Carl Johnson rounded out the last of the 9-car field. In the Renegades, in the open wheel feature, out of Dora, Alabama, it was Kyle Moore taking the win over Barry Martin. Nathan Davis was third. Butch Wade was fourth. Walter Cartledge was fifth. Frankie Martin was sixth. Rocky Rogers was seventh. Wesley Rottenberry was eighth. Sean Kaiser was ninth. Tristan Moore rounded out the 10-car field. And in the mod lights, short field, a bunch of cars got tore up in the heat race. It was Robert Ham taking the win over James Ham. Randall Ham was third, and Kenny Wesson was fourth. And those are this week's veterans results for Ensign Thomas Benton out of Adamsville, Alabama. He is stationed in Norfolk, Virginia. He wanted to hear the results from Sayers Speedway. Sir, there are your results in our veterans results. And thank you for your service from one veteran to another. Thank you for standing in the gap so that we can do what we do here at home while you stand and place yourself in harm's way. Thank you, sir. All right, we've got some more results we're going to jump into. One of the tracks that we mentioned earlier is Huntsville Speedway. We've had Robbie Edger on here a couple of times talking about bringing Huntsville Speedway back. Well, third race of the year, they have finally got everything lined up, and they are working really hard to keep me in the loop. They got me the results last week, and I missed it. I didn't get the email in time before we went on air. So we're going to do it this week. The limited late model division made its 2016 debut with a 50-lap feature. Fast qualifier Chris Wharton drew a 5, which placed the number 27 of veteran driver Edwin Gurley on the pole for the race. Larry Audrey took the lead from Gurley early on when Gurley had to pit for a flat tire. Audrey held on to the lead until he spun exiting turn 2 on lap 23, placing Alan Galloway in the top spot with Chris Wharton in hot pursuit. The duo collided in turns 3 and 4 on lap 23, with Wharton sustaining heavy damage to the nose of his Austin Hines Motors vehicle. The aftermath put the former late model track champion John Henniger Jr. in the lead, alongside Billy Brock. But at the checkered flag, it was Larry Autry taking the win. John Henniger Jr. was second. Brian Malone was third. Jason Welch was fourth. Billy Brock was fifth. Alan Galloway was sixth. Chris Wharton was seventh. Lonnie Watson was 8th. Edwin Gurley was 9th. And that is the limited late model division. In the open wheel modifieds, it was John Thomas taking the win over Troy Gray. Chase Oliver was 3rd. Michael Halbrooks was 4th. Bradley Carter was 5th. Philip Price was 6th. 7th was Jacob Wyatt. Parker Pugh was 8th. Kenny Andrews was 9th. Jason Miller was 10th. And rounding out the 11-car field was Brian Lambert Jr. In the mini modified division, it was Tommy Robinette taking the win over Butch Minor. Carl Griffith was 3rd. Chris Brown finished 4th, but he was DQ'd. In the Buzz division, it was Jay Harmoning. Boy, that got too many M's and N's in there. Jay, we need to shorten your name. He takes the win. Shane Jones was 2nd. Donna Thornton was 3rd. Corey Morrow was 4th. And David Adams finished 5th in his first race. In the Superstock division, it was Bradley Malone taking the win over Kenny Morrow. Michael McKay was 3rd. David Dean Jr. was 4th. Todd Cagle was 5th. Junior Jordan was 6th. Michael Neely was 7th. Butch Rogers was 8th. Caleb Thornberry was 9th. Johnny Goodman was 10th. In the Hot Shot division, it was Matthew Tucker taking the win over Josh Mack, and Josh Barnett rounded out the 3-car field. That's how they kicked them off down at Huntsville Speedway. Congratulations to Robbie Edger and all the guys down there for swinging the gates open one more time at Huntsville Speedway after being closed for 2 years. Looking for great things coming from Huntsville Speedway, hoping to get down there real soon and check them out and sit in and watch my buddy Gary McCullough and the Track Pro Safety team go down there and get it done. Let's see here. Let's go back. I have the results from Bubba Raceway Park for this past weekend. In the modifieds, it was Todd Neilheiser taking the win over Garrett Stewart. Roger Krause was 3rd. David Pollan was 4th. Tyler Clem was 5th. Ronnie Chance was 6th. Billy Shane Nichols was 7th. Emil Buzzy Rudeman was 8th. Larry Birkins was 9th. Nate Bringenzer was 10th. Justin Galbraith was 11th. John Zudema was 12th. Seth Gary was 13th. Larry Mott was 14th. Randy Shields Jr. was 15th. Rich Pratt was 16th. Lenny O'Neill was 17th. Kyle Maynard was 18th. Frank Lewis was 19th. Scott Kurtzner was 20th. Tom Shaheen was 21st. And Eric Moon rounded out the 22-car field. In the hobby stocks, it was Michael Stallnaker taking the win over Ronnie Hurd. Brandon Elwood was 3rd. 4th was Rick Elwood. Brandon Tillender was 5th. Heath Walker was 6th. Trevor Gamble was 7th. Matthew Bozeman was 8th. Justin Rogers was 9th. David Barwick was 10th. William Edwards was 11th. Dennis Williams was 12th. Scott Gillette was 13th. Billy Barstow was 14th. Gregory King was 15th. Jacob Antis was 16th. 17th was Chris Scranton. Martin Johnson was 18th. Tyler Sistrunk was 19th. Tim Gay, Corky Gidden, and David Reiner did not start. In the V8 Thunder stocks, it was Jimbo Warren taking the win over Tony Campbell. Mike Eubanks was 3rd. Buddy Pope was 4th. Tyler Bryden was 5th. Jonathan Appleby was 6th. Jason Gamble was 7th. William Gillum was 8th. Marvin Faulkner was 9th. James Seeley was 10th. Michael Hart was 11th. Chuck Cantley was 12th. Tom Shaheen was 13th. Michael Carr was 14th. 15th was James Erickson. Raymond Vann was 16th. Don Bishop 17th. Gerald Haley was 18th. In the Gladiator division, it was Teddy Morrison taking the win over Robert Gillette. John Vidalak was 3rd. In the Mod Light Stars series, it was Darren Bass taking the win over Jerry Heflin. John Shelnut was 3rd. Tim McLeod was 4th. Robert Bo Bass was 5th. Andrew Smith was 6th. J.D. Corden was 7th. Tom Sauer was 8th. And Jason Trethway was 9th. And that's how they ran them down at Bubba Raceway Park in Ocala, Florida this past weekend. You know, there are lots of racing that are going on, and there's some tracks that are still in an area where it's cold. And North Georgia Speedway ran into this last week. The weatherman projected 40-degree temperatures with a 25-mile-an-hour wind. That regulates for a cold, cold racetrack. Now, the racers are going to come out, but the fans, not so much. And for these racetracks to be successful and stay open, we have to have fans in the stands. That is the reason North Georgia did not open last week, and they postponed the Ernest Young Memorial until this weekend. Weather predicted for this weekend in the 60s and 70s. So come on out to North Georgia Speedway. I will be topside announcing. We will be dumping out candy for the kids. And keep your eye on North Georgia Speedway's Facebook page. We're going to be giving away a pair of tickets later in the week for the Ernest Young Memorial $3,000 to win super late model race. All right, don't forget some of these upcoming events. The Rome Rumble with the Ultimate Super Late Models, $4,000 to win at Rome Speedway. That is the 24th of April. On the 16th, the Ernest Young Memorial at North Georgia. I-75 on the 16th has a full night of racing. And on the 22nd, the USCS Sprint Cars roll into I-75 Speedway. Cleveland will have a full program this weekend, as well as Huntsville Speedway will have a full program this weekend. If you would like to get your racetrack and your upcoming events on the show, all you got to do is shoot me a message. You can send it to THEDR, the doctor, at charter.net. You can send it to a private message to the Monday Night Results Show, or you can send one straight to me. I'm the only Mitch Walker in Dalton, Georgia, so feel free to look me up. Hit the like button and or hit the friend button if you like. But send me a message, and we will get your racetrack listed on our show every Monday night. We are looking for a few more tracks to put in the regular rotation, and we would love to have you join us here on the Performance Motorsports Network every Monday night. Great way to establish a bigger crowd. All the guys down in Texas, we know you're racing. We will get your results coming up next week. We missed some of you up in New England. Sean Shields and the Riding the Cushion guys up there. I'm sorry I didn't get to your results tonight. We kind of got long-winded talking about women in racing and NASCAR and my buddy Delbert Haynes, but we will get you next week when you have a bunch of racetracks that are kicking off their season openers, and we're looking forward to getting all those results on next week's show. We have some guests that we are working on for next week. I haven't cemented the deal yet, so I don't want to say too much, but I will say it is a legendary sprint car driver who we hope will be joining us and will come and tell us about what it's like to have raced in sprint cars over 3 decades, 3 different decades. And I think some of you may know who I'm talking about, the last name of Oski. But I have talked to him. We are working on getting him on next week as well. We have a couple of things that we are working on. I hope that we can swing them so that people can listen to the shows in an archived format. I am working on that. Don't want to put too much into it right now, but I'm just telling you, I know a bunch of you have asked me how you can listen and go back and listen to old shows, and we are working on getting that program put together. Hopefully should know something by next week. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a great show. I want to thank Delbert Haynes, my buddy Mr. Smooth, for joining us. I want to thank Alli Owens for coming and telling about her trials and tribulations with going up and down the ladder to NASCAR and ARCA. We will get her back and follow her as she makes her way to Eldora and tries to run the truck race there coming up real soon. All right, everybody, have a super week. Make sure you take somebody racing with you this weekend. It's been the Monday Night Results Show with your host, me, Mitch Walker, exclusively right here on the Performance Motorsports Network. See you.
Y'all ready for this?
The Monday Night Results Show is a copyrighted production of the Performance Motorsports Network. www.performancemotorsportsnetwork.com, a member of the Scorpion Radio Group, Inc., and may not be rebroadcast, replicated, or saved in any media without the explicit written permission of PMN. Check out our Facebook page or our section on the PMN website. The opinions expressed on this program are those of the host, co-host, and guests, and do not necessarily reflect those of the management and ownership of either PMN or Scorpion Radio Group, Inc., the advertisers, or the marketing partners. If you would like to hear the results from your local track, or you are a track owner or a promoter and want us to cover your venue, give us a call during normal business hours, 717-749-0444. IM us on our Facebook page or email us at performancemotorsportsnetwork@gmail.com. Be listening again next week as we are talking results on the Monday Night Results Show with the Doctor. For the Monday Night Results Show, I'm Big Mike. It's the Monday Night Results Show. Just the results, and nothing but the results. From this past weekend's race at your favorite racetracks, if you're looking for a lot of happy talk and fluff, tune into the Disney Channel. And now, the man with a mind for statistics. Unfortunately, those statistics are usually odds on the ponies in Vegas. Mitch, the Dr. Walker.
All right, welcome back. It's the Monday Night Results Show. And boy, I tell you what, we are locked and loaded for bear tonight. Great show lined up, but let's step it off like we're supposed to each and every week with our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. They may take that out of the public schools, but they'll never take it off of my radio show. All right. We have got a show lined up tonight. I am really excited about tonight's show. We do have some bad news that we're going to be talking about in the first segment. I'm going to be doing a tribute to one of racing's greats, Mr. Charles Mincie. Also, this past weekend, Ronnie the King Davis was killed in Rockingham in a drag race. He was from Georgia, and we'll be talking a little bit about him. In the same incident that took Ronnie Davis, there was a photographer who was the Drag Illustrated senior editor, Ian Toker. He was hit by debris from Davis's car, and he is in stable shape, but he was hit in the legs. He was airlifted to UNC Chapel Hill, I believe, is where they took him. And they said that they do have circulation in both legs, and they're hoping that they can do the reconstructive surgery to save both of his legs, and that he will return to a normal life soon. But keep those in your prayers. We've got results from all over the place, man. I've got results left and right. Real quick news, Bob Vandergriff, who raced up until 2014 in the NHRA Top Fuel. 2014, he turned into a car owner and fielded 2 Top Fuel teams for a couple of drivers, Dave Conley and Leah Pritchett, effective immediately. Bob Vandergriff has pulled the plug on Bob Vandergriff Racing. He has announced an immediate retirement, and he is stepping away from it. He said he's got a lot of things going on. A lot of it had to do with him losing his dear friend. Recently, the owner of C&J Energy Services. I know that, Josh Comstock was his name. Losing a good friend like that can really affect it. And it is what it is, but it's going to be sad to see Bob Vandergriff go. I know that he's got some things in the works. He's going to be doing some things, but not seeing the Bob Vandergriff hauler and the cars at NHRA events is a sad day. 22 years in racing, and he's walking away. He said he just has priorities that he wants to take care of, and the death of his friend, he said he just realized that there was things that were more important than racing, and that now he's going to be taking care of them. All right, we're getting ready to step out and take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the legend, Mr. Charles Mincie. I have some stuff that I'm going to read to you, and some excerpts from an article from racersreunion.com. I want to thank them for allowing me to do so. But when we come back, don't go nowhere. It's the Monday Night Results Show with your host, me, Mitch Walker. They call me the Doctor, exclusively right here on the Performance Motorsports Network.
Here's an important message from RAD and this station.
Hi, this is Bob Sheehan from Blues Traveler for RAD, Recording Artists Against Drunk Driving. I like to party just as much as the next guy, maybe even more. But the one thing I won't do after I've had a few is get in the car and drive. Don't blow it. Always choose a designated driver. Remember, music lives, and so should you.
Motorsports sales professionals. Performance Motorsports is looking to build a team of experienced media sales professionals to represent our programming to the industry's top companies, magazines, and racing series. If you have motorsports sales or marketing experience, know how to work with agencies, understand social media, and are incredibly creative when it comes to working with clients and promotions, then we want to hear from you. Top performers are richly rewarded. Your imagination is the only limit here. Call 717-749-0444. That's 717-749-0444, or email us at scorpionradiogroup@gmail.com. You want to ask for Sue.
You are a waste, a loser. Everyone hates you. Why don't you just stay in your car and keep driving? I'm serious. Drive until you run out of gas, then get out of your car and walk until you find someone who doesn't think you're dumber than bricks. Could take a while, but at least all that walking might burn a couple of calories.
You may not witness bullying like this every day. Your kids do. They want to help, but they don't know how. Visit stopbullying.gov to learn safe, simple ways your child can help stop bullying. Be more than a bystander at stopbullying.gov. A message from the Ad Council.
You own a performance car and you know how to drive, but you want to learn real performance driving. Well, Bunky, get that car off the street and onto the track. Summit Point Motorsports Park, the Mid-Atlantic's premier road racing facility, located just over an hour from D.C. in nearby Summit Point, West Virginia, is the place to go. And you'll find that Friday at the track is going to give you what you need. For less than a monthly car payment, you can attend this regularly scheduled one-day instructional event in your street car on one of Summit Point's 3 world-class road racing circuits. You'll receive classroom instruction, skid pad instruction in their cars, including front and rear skid control, and 4 20-minute in-your-car instructional sessions from a professional instructor. Have fun, go fast, and really learn how to drive. Call 304-725-8444 for class schedules and details. That's 304-725-8444. Friday at the track at Summit Point Motorsports Park.
It's the Monday Night Results Show, the internet radio show that gives you the results from your favorite racetracks. And that's it! If you're looking for a lot of happy talk and fluff, go watch NASCAR coverage on ESPN. Now, here's the Doctor.
All right, welcome back. I got kind of distracted there during the preview, and I want to tell you a little bit about my guests for tonight. First up, here coming up in just a little bit, will be none other than Mr. Smooth himself, Delbert Haynes. I believe Delbert is starting his 34th year racing, and multi-time track champion, always a great driver, clean driver who prides himself on good-looking cars, and he's got quite a following. When we mentioned on the show before who would you like to hear on the show? One of the names that was always in the top 3 of guests that people wanted to hear was Delbert Haynes. So driver the number 11, we will be having Delbert come on board with us here in just a little bit, and we're going to be talking to him. And as we previewed last week, we're going to have a young lady out of Florida. Miss Alli Owens is going to be joining us. She is going to be stepping up and trying her hand at the trucks when the NASCAR trucks roll into Eldora this year. So we're going to be talking about her and some of the battles and the tribulations of getting a Cup team together or a NASCAR team together. And we'll be talking a little bit about her. But this past week, the racing community lost a true legend, Charlie Mincie. Charlie was born in the Bellwood community, the roughest neighborhood in Atlanta, on November 19th, 1931. Charlie delivered cars for his dad, who owned a paint and body shop. And at 10 years old, he was learning